I don't want to give you any hints as to what I'm thinking about, but what season is it in the summer? Does anybody know the answer to that question? Baseball, Royals. I'm trying to forget that part of baseball. They did beat the Orioles, who have a worse record than them. Anyway, I digress. This summer, our youngest Colin, who is 8, just turned 8 in May, decided he really wanted to play baseball. Now, with the moving the summer before and the COVID junk that happened last summer, because of spring, they played football last summer, so he did not play baseball, so he hasn't played for 2 years. Now, if you've been playing a lot of years, picking up a ball is like riding a bike. You know, you can just get on it and figure out and go. But I'm telling you, when we started, it was like starting from scratch. He outgrew his glove from when he was 6 years old, so we had to go get a new glove. And he outgrew the bat that was really small, so we had to get a new bat. And then we started practicing, and we went to play catch, and I threw him the ball, and the ball went behind him. And then he picked it up and threw it back to me, and I threw it again, and it went behind him again. And then we'd play a little bit longer, and I'd throw it, and he'd have the glove right here waiting for the ball, and the ball would be right here a few inches away, and he would miss that ball. And he'd say, "Dad, throw it better." Okay. So we put the bat, the ball, and the glove down, and I start pitching to him, because the other new thing is at 8, it's coach's pitch, not T-ball. So I start pitching it to him, and I think what's going to work best is if I do it nice and easy underhand. And I threw it to him underhand, and he swung, and he spun, and he wiped out. And we did that a few more times, and it just was not working. I could say all the things I wanted to say. When we're playing catch, I say, keep your eye on the ball. And it doesn't seem to work. When he's batting, I say, wait for the ball to get there or swing earlier. And it doesn't work. And it felt like we were stuck, that there was no place we could go, that, I'd say things like, we do have a soccer ball already. Are you sure you wouldn't want to just go on with soccer? And he really wanted to. And it was a challenge for us. Last week, we talked about Moses and God standing before Pharaoh, and this is when God called Moses from the burning bush, and he said, "Set my people free, and the sign of you being free is coming back to this mountain and worshiping me on this mountain." We're continuing through this series, God's Declaration of Independence, and after God told Moses about setting them free so they could worship him, then they go through all the plagues, and they face all these challenges, and finally Pharaoh lets them go, and they are out in the wilderness. And we'll pick up here in Exodus 14. Will you stand as you are able? Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp near Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. They are to encamp by the sea directly opposite Baal-zephon. Pharaoh will think, the Israelites are wandering in the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, but I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and his army. And the Egyptians will know that I am Lord." So the Israelites did this. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their mind about them and said, "What have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their services. So he had his chariot made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 of the best chariots, along with all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites who were marching out boldly. The Egyptian, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, horsemen and troops, pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped near the sea near Pihahiroth, opposite Baal-zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us up here to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, 'Leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians'? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert." Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." The word of God for the people of God. Amen. You may be seated. Floyd Collins might have known a little bit about what those Israelites were feeling as they were hemmed in, as they were trapped, as they had nothing going on that could help them. Roger Thompson tells a story about Floyd Collins, who in 1925 was exploring near Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, and he got stuck. He was 55 feet from getting out of that cave, and he got stuck. Icy water was dripping on his face. Rescue workers came and they were able to get the water diverted so it wasn't dripping on his face, but they couldn't get him out of being stuck. He began to become unglued in there. Not unglued from his spot, but unglued from his mental cognitive ability. He was stuck in that cave. He was able to see the light, able to see where he wanted to go. He was hearing voices. He was getting food, but he was stuck and he couldn't get out. So he slowly began having these raving lunacies about everything from chicken sandwiches to white angels on chariots. The newspapers got in on it, and 10,000 people came to see him. They sold hot dogs and sandwiches. It was a sideshow. 17 days later, Floyd Collins died in that hole, able to see where he wanted to be, but not able to get there. The Israelites could see where they wanted to go, but they were not able to get there. The verse that we're looking at is in verse 10. It says, the Israelites looked up. Now, the Israelites looked up. Now, the cloud of presence was before them, and we'll see in the subsequent verses, the cloud of presence was before them. And when God diverted them down, and if you look at this map, you can see a little bit about how they may have headed. These are two gulfs that came out as they came out of Egypt. They passed through here, and then God let them down here, where they have a gulf on this side, a gulf on this side, the sea, and then they're trapped by mountains and by the desert. And the Egyptians saw what a bad military maneuver that was, and they could not resist the temptation of hemming them in, so they could not escape. And they get down to this part here, which there's many options of where they could have been, but This map shows it right here, and they have to cross over the Gulf of that Red Sea in order to escape. And they were stuck. There was no conceivable way out, but the verse that we just saw said they looked up. They're looking at the cloud of presence and following God in front of them, but then they looked up and they were in fear. They saw the Egyptians behind them and they saw no way out. When it says they looked up, they were diverted from God. They could have just focused on God and avoided all that fear and anxiety. But as all of us know, when things are coming at us from behind, when our past is creeping up on us, when enemies are encamping around us, when things we have done have come back to haunt us, we fear and panic and then say, "Why, God? Why aren't you taking care of this?" And of course, for the Israelites, it's, "Why, God, would you lead us here where there's no way out, where we are stuck, where we are trapped, where we can't move forward? You set us free only to die. What is the point of that? We need to move forward." What reminders do we have in our lives that make me look back instead of forward in freedom? What do we have in our lives that says, okay, God set us free. Why am I still stuck in this? Why can't I get to where I need to go? I know what it looks like, but why? I mean, what traps us? What makes us feel trapped? Is it a job? Is it a relationship? Is it a health issues? Is it other fears and other anxieties and other things we just can't seem to overcome in our lives? What causes us to lose our focus on God and look up and divert our attention away from God? To forget that God gives us purpose and to doubt who God is. There's a short video that will show.
I have seen the pace of your life. The stress, the anxiety, the constant movement, rushing from one place to the next, chasing after your desires, or running from your fears. I see how you struggle, striving to meet your needs all on your own. I see the burdens placed upon you and the burdens you place upon yourself. In the midst of this chaos and hurry, I am calling out to you to slow down. Be still and know that I am God. It is I who set the earth in motion. It is I who sustains you, protects you, and provides for your needs. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Trust in me with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid, for I will never leave you. Let your soul find rest in me, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. For neither death nor life, the present nor the future, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate you from my love. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world.
When he was talking to the disciples at the Last Supper, the book of John tells us that he said, "Take heart, I have overcome the world." Wherever we are stuck, wherever we feel trapped, whatever we have going on, Jesus says, "I got this." Now, verse 14 says this. It says, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." What? That doesn't make sense for what we are used to. We're trapped by the Egyptians here. We need to move quickly. Now, when you're talking to someone who likes to move quickly, likes to get things done right now, likes to make it happen and move on, it's difficult. When I look back at my own life, I see that even in high school, when the bell rang between classes, I walked really fast, went to my locker and went quick out. When I need to get somewhere, I like to get there fast. I like to get it taken care of. But God is saying in the midst, even when you feel more anxiety than you should, even when you feel the pressure of needing it now, making something happen now, God says, "Be still." How can that be? I mean, it's actually pretty important because it says it so many times in the Bible. Psalm 46:1 says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in all the earth." Now, it's saying the same thing that we see in Exodus, where God said, "I will glorify myself through this. They will know about me." It's when we are still that we can show the world God is in control. That it's not us trying to be in control. It's not us trying to force our own freedom. It's not us chasing our own dreams, but it is us submitting ourselves to God and trusting in God. In Mark 4, the disciples were scared. They woke up Jesus. The storm was raging. And he looked at the storm itself. And Jesus got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. What is the storm going on in your heart? What are the storms that you are facing, and how do you get through that? How do you face these storms, like wanting to make sure our children are the best that they can be? When we were playing catch, it was breaking my heart that he was not catching the ball, and no matter how many times I said, "Keep your eye on the ball was not caught. And the only thing that changed was Colin taught me something. He's standing there with his glove like this. And it reminded me of when I was a kid and my dad was trying to teach me how to play ball. And he said, "This next one is going to come right at your nose, so you're going to have to protect it." So knowing that, and this happened, I'm always telling my boys, the glove is your best safety. The glove protects you. Don't turn away. Let the glove do the work. Now, when my dad threw that ball, I just put my glove here and protected myself. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and nothing happened. So I dropped the glove, and the ball hit me in the nose. Lesson learned. I learned how to catch after that. So instead of throwing the ball at Colin's nose, I threw the ball at his glove. His glove was right there. And I threw the ball, and I had to be good enough to get the ball to go right in the glove. And it bounced out a few times, and then he started catching it. And then he started getting excited. And then he started learning. And you see, then when we batted, I learned that the uphill, when you throw underhanded, there's always a slope to it. So even though I just learned to throw easy overhand to him, and just after a couple pitches, he started hitting it. That all worked because he taught me what I needed to do to meet him where he was at. Okay? Now, we celebrated. We were so excited. Now, here we are later in the season. If the ball drops in his glove, we don't celebrate quite as much. But he's learned to move the glove and go where the ball is. If he hits the ball that goes to the same spot every time, it's not as big of a celebration, but he was able to move forward. He was able to move beyond stuck. Okay? I say all that because the good news is God is a much better father than me. He already knows where you are at. He already knows what you need. And when God says, be still, just hold your glove there, and the ball will hit you right in that glove. And eventually, you can jump, you can move, you can step to the side, you can start going. So be still. Trust in God. No matter how high the circumstances may seem, no matter how difficult, no matter how rushed, no matter how stressful, no matter how painful, be still. And know that God is with you, and know that God will cover you. Step one is to be still. Let God be God. Don't try to be God. Don't try to do it all on your own. Trust God enough to just hit you right in the glove or throw it right where you're swinging. He'll meet you right there. And then step two is trust God. By God's grace, you'll be free to move forward. Trust God so that to see what God does. Now, when we go on in Exodus 14, we see that the cloud of presence that was in front of them went behind them. And on the Egyptian side, it made everything dark. And on the Israelite side, it brought light to them. And then the seas parted, and they walked through. Who gets the glory for the seas parting? God. Not even Moses. God gets the glory because everybody knows Moses, just a human being, couldn't have done that. Aaron couldn't have done that. 400,000 Israelites couldn't have done that. It's all God getting the glory. And the first step to us giving God the glory and us being witnesses in the world that God is amazing is to be still. But some people go on and they say, okay, I'll just sit here and let God take care of this. And then they lose faith when they don't see something changing. They don't see the door opening they want to open. The first step is to be still. The second step is to step in between the waters. It's to step out in faith and to trust in God. This week, when circumstances in your life seem stressful, they seem overwhelming, they seem impossible, if you seem stuck, ask yourself this question: will I choose to be still and to trust in God? Take the time this week to share with someone when you decided to be still, when you decided to trust in God, when you decided to step out in faith and let God do the work. Our closing song is "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus," or our response. Will you stand?